The first edition of the AgroAlba 2025 Expo Fair continues in the city of Caracas, Venezuela. In Panama, the trade unions strike and protest are underway to demand the repeal of Law 462 of the Social Security Fund and stand against the government's policies. In the last 24 hours, the Israeli army has killed at least 70 civilians and wounded more than 180 in attacks on the Gaza Strip. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The first edition of the AgroAlba 2025 Expo Fair continues in the city of Caracas, Venezuela. The event brings together ALBA TCP member states as well as invited countries, investors and businessmen from different regions of the world. As part of the two-day agenda, ministers from different productive portfolios have held several briefings and meetings. The Executive Secretary of ALBA TCP, Jorge Arreaza, highlighted the extraordinary potential of its member states. The AgroAlba initiative was proposed by President Nicolás Maduro Moros during the bloc's 24th Summit of Heads of State and Government last December, with the aim of taking advantage of the potential of Venezuela and other member nations to achieve food sovereignty.
Y ahora con esta iniciativa de AgroAlba, nosotros estamos seguros que
And now, with this initiative of AgroAlba, we are sure that the call we have made to businessmen and businesswomen of the social movement, of peasants and farmers, will allow us to really build a path of splendor, a path of prosperity, a path of national sovereignty. It is a really ambitious task that has been launched and given to us by the Summit of Presidents and Heads of State and Government of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of our Americas. Here there has been a team that has responded to that. You have responded to that. We have already signed some agricultural and livestock exploitation agreements to develop in Venezuela the food production that our region needs.
In Venezuela, the newly elected governor to the Guayana Esequiba state, Neil Villamizar, was sworn in on Thursday for the period 2025-2029. In a ceremony presided by Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, the members of the Legislative Council of the state carried out the swearing-in process as established by the Venezuelan Constitution. During the act, Governor Villamizar emphasized that this is a historic moment for Guyana Esequiba, a special moment for the country, and confirmed that the Esequiba belongs to Venezuela. Villamizar highlighted the implementation of the Esequiba 70 program adapted to the needs of the territory with a strong popular focus. Furthermore, the governor emphasized that his administration will focus on miners, producers, entrepreneurs, and the indigenous people, which represent 90% of the population.
The Guyana Esequiba is a national feeling. The Esequiba is ours. Long live the Guyana Esequiba. It is a historic day for the homeland. We are living what I call the times of recovery of our Guyana Esequiba.
The governor of the Guyana Esequiba also highlighted his commitment to solve the state's territorial controversy.
The commitment to carry out all the necessary actions to create that series of conditions that will allow us to promote the solution to the controversy in the first place. This controversy that must be solved according to the popular mandate, also in this referendum, must be solved within the framework of the provisions of the Geneva Convention of 1966, and also, now, a strategy to bring this attention to all our people, to our people of Esequiba.
During the solemn swearing-in ceremony, the Executive Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, reaffirmed that the political status of the Guayana Esequiba had been born.
At this moment we are writing history. The political status of our Guayana Esequiba has been born. We have a card that gives us the right to live and act in a territory that belongs to us. No one has any doubt. There are two historical truths. The first one is that when we were born as a republic, we already had this territory. We already had it, with a title, with legitimate rights. And the second great truth was the robbery and plunder committed by the English.
In another part of her speech, Rodriguez stressed the political and diplomatic mechanism established by the Geneva Agreement to settle issues regarding the Guayana Esequiba.
You know, as our governor said, the controversy over the territory of the Guayana Esequiba has only one legal, diplomatic and political course, which is the Geneva Agreement of 1966. In that agreement it is recognized that there was a dispossession. In that agreement it is recognized that there is a controversy that must be settled. The injustice committed against Venezuela is recognized, and it is clearly established that the mechanism for negotiation is the political and diplomatic way.
The government of Venezuela denounced on Thursday the new travel restrictions announced by the Donald Trump administration, condemning them as a new stigmatization campaign against the Venezuelan people. The official communique states that Venezuela categorically condemns and rejects the campaign of stigmatization and criminalization launched against its people by the government of the United States of America, now expressing a new attack that restricts the issuance and validity of visas for Venezuelan citizens without any justification and with obvious political and intimidating purposes. It goes on to condemn that this operation has been promoted by the current Secretary of State Marco Rubio, an official known for his hatred of the Venezuelan people, who has made systematic aggressions his foreign policy with the support of the Venezuelan far right. Furthermore, the Venezuelan government reiterated its unwavering commitment to defending the rights and interests of Venezuelans anywhere in the world, and in the face of this new wave of aggressions, reaffirms the maximum travel alert to the United States of America. The communique ends by underscoring what has happened is not an isolated incident, but a new demonstration of the visceral hatred against the Venezuelan people that animates those who today conduct Washington's foreign policy. More on this topic, as Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez also rejected the Trump administration's decree. Through the social network X, the official denounced that the new ban on entry to the U.S. for nationals of several countries has racist undertones and is supported by anti-Cuban politicians, adding that it harms contact between Cuban families. It damages personal, professional, academic, and cultural exchanges between the two countries. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Panama, the trade unions strike and protest are underway to demand the repeal of Law 462 of the Social Security Fund and stand against the government's policies. The Ministry of Education requested the resumption of classes after 43 days of indefinite strike, but the teachers' union stated that they won't engage in dialogue or return to the classroom until the law be repealed. In this sense, trade unions urge citizens to join rallies grounded in this law harms families. Moreover, they underscore that privatization only guarantees a decrease and elimination of the historical benefits won with hard work. Therefore, Panamanians rejected the Memorandum of Understanding with the United States, the military bases, the reopening of the Donoso copper mine, and the persecution of trade unions. In this context, regardless the constitutional right to go on a strike in Panama, the General Comptroller of the Republic indicated that the stoppage of classes by teachers was illegal. Subsequently, the authority announced that the next week, 15,000 educators won't receive their salaries. They further advanced they would access other legal actions they may take against the teachers' union. Likewise, the Comptroller's office highlighted they would review the teachers' data bank to replace those instructors who were not teaching due to they had joined the strike. The spokesperson of the Panamanian workers, Alberto Reyes, denounced before the International Workers Association organization the aggression of the government of Panama against workers and trade union organizations.
Once again, we feel the need to use the platform of this international assembly to denounce the brutal onslaught of the government of Panama against trade human rights, the persecution against the trade union organizations and their leaders violating the constitutional guarantees is a serious threat to democracy, especially when the President of the Republic, José Raúl Mulino, recognized his willingness to become a dictator if he considered it necessary.
Panamanians have denounced the repression of several indigenous communities by the National Police and Border Service. Indigenous people in the Emberá Wunnan comarca, located in the province of Darien, claim that state forces have entered their communities to suppress protesters and the general population. They also report that tear gas has been fired at them from helicopters, harming the health of children, women, and the elderly in the process. They also denounced the indiscriminate use of force and weapons against their leaders during raids on their homes. The indigenous people of Arimae have condemned the prevent the protest from spreading. In other news, a report reveals that 30% of Salvadorans struggle to make ends meet due to low income. A publication by the consultancy firm Kantar states that 46% of Salvadorans base their budget on current priorities. The report also highlights the important role that remittances play in supporting families. The document also notes that Salvadoran households differ from those in the rest of the Central American region, in that 60% say that the remittances they receive are mostly spent on basic goods. In El Salvador, lawyer Ruth Lopez, a significant investigator of the crimes committed by the Bukele administration, will remain in prison after her initial hearing against her finished Wednesday. The prosecution charged her Wednesday with illicit enrichment. As a result, her trial was declared in reserve by a judge. This implied no media outlets could attend her hearings. In addition, it entailed plaintiffs have no contact with the defendant. Thus, by the time Lopez was leaving the 12th Peace Court in San Salvador, she claimed to be a political prisoner because of her work against corruption and abuses of power by the government. In this context, outside the court, activists gathered to express their solidarity with the lawyer and denounce the persecution against human rights defenders. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In the last 24 hours, the Israeli army has killed at least 70 civilians and wounded more than 180 in attacks on the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian Ministry of Health announced that those injured had been transferred to hospitals in the Gaza Strip. The ministry pointed out that 54,677 people have been killed and around 125,600 injured as a result of Israeli aggressions since October 7, 2023. The report also stated that there are still victims trapped under the rubble and ambulances and civil defense vehicles cannot access the roads. While in France for a state visit, Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva condemned the genocide Israel perpetrates against Palestinians in Gaza, calling world powers to unite to put an end to it.
What is happening in Gaza is not a war. What is happening in Gaza is a genocide carried out by a highly prepared army against women and children. That is what is happening, and humanity has to be indignant in the face of it. Society must be indignant in the face of it, and it's why I keep demanding. And I am becoming the very boring guy that I keep demanding changes at the United Nations, but the United Nations of today cannot be the United Nations of 1945. The organization of today has to have the participation of the African continent, South America, Latin America. And it is important that the world powers put an end to this immediately. We cannot continue to have the United Nations calling for a ceasefire and not have a ceasefire respected. So people, we are still seeing genocide in front of us every single day. Every single day. Yesterday 95 people have died, all innocent and civilians.
The Ukrainian armed forces launched several attacks against the infrastructure of a Russian nuclear power plant. The Zaporozhye nuclear power plant reported on Telegram that the Kyiv regime targeted the roof of a building at the power plant's training center, where the only reactor simulator is located. Authorities in the area said the attack did not cause any injuries and denounced the increase in terrorist actions by Ukraine against Russian energy facilities. U.S. President Donald Trump admitted Thursday that he put an end to the Nord Stream 2 project. The statement was made during a meeting with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, where Trump added that he now regrets having stopped the gas pipeline that sent gas from Russia to Germany. The U.S. president also stressed that his country has enough oil and gas resources, so they will work on a way to export them. The U.S. head of state also assured the German Chancellor that Washington will reach a good tariff agreement with the European Union. The United States Supreme Court rejected the Mexican government's $10 billion lawsuit against firearms manufacturers for contributing to the armed violence of drug trafficking cartels. Judge Elena Kagan alleged that the Mexican lawsuit does not credibly prove that the companies have directly aided and abetted the illegal sale of weapons to criminal groups. The decision made by the U.S. entity protects manufacturers from liability when products are used in criminal acts. In this sense, Mexico argues that these negligent commercial practices of the manufacturers poorly regulated facilitate trafficking in Mexican territory, fueling violence and suffering in the country. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum condemned the recent aggressions perpetrated by the State Education Workers Union, SETEG, and any form of violence against the governor's palace.
De acuerdo. Y
We do not agree, and I think that the teachers either approve or distance themselves, because how is it possible that there is a dialogue table and they have chosen the commission that was going to enter the dialogue table with the Secretary of Government?
posible que haya una mesa de diálogo, que ellos hayan elegido a la comisión que iba a entrar a la mesa de diálogo con la Secretaria de Gobernación, con el Secretario
With the Secretary of Public Education. And suddenly, a group of people, because there were very few, started to throw stones, wanting to break the door of government.
queriendo romper la puerta de gobernación. Es un grupo pequeño, de mucha provocación.
They are a small group, very provocative, so the teachers who are mobilizing should distance themselves from them, or assume it, because we are against any action of violence.
President Sheinbaum also called to urgently set up a high-level negotiation table between Colombia and Mexico regarding mutual security and cooperation due to the recent attack carried out by a Colombian criminal group in Michoacán.
There was a very important arrest in Michoacán on the border with Jalisco, where unfortunately members of the National Guard died by an explosive device and members of a criminal group were arrested, and there were several Colombians involved. It is not the first time that people of that nationality are arrested. When I was head of government in the city of Mexico, there were also arrests of other nationalities, but particularly Colombians. For some months now, and I even mentioned it directly to President Petro, and also our foreign minister have been looking into creating a high-level group for security issues between Colombia and Mexico, and there have already been some meetings.
Moreover, the Mexican head of state indicated that she will wait for a meeting with the United States Undersecretary of State, Christopher Landau, before making an approach for steel and aluminum.
We are going to see how the meeting turns out this Friday. Remember that on the 11th, on that day, Secretary Landau is coming to Mexico. This is one of the issues we are going to talk to him about. Then we are going to wait before making the proposals for steel and aluminum.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net, and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.